name's Angus MacLeod, and I want to say something today about mindfulness in the context of work. The whole concept of mindfulness goes back a long way really, but not in that name. It arose in that name in '97 by somebody called Caxton, and is sort of in vogue as something to be thought of in the context of work, and is it relevant or not. Then in 2000, some of you may already know that there's work by Otto Scharmer, Joseph Jaworski and co, who came up with something called presencing. And this is also very similar and has been applied in organisations fruitfully. Both of these, presencing, mindfulness, whatever you want to call them, are predicated upon individuals being present, having a greater awareness, that's self-awareness and external awareness of other people and the environment around them, and being non-judgmental about others. So that's being present, having raised awareness or sensory acuity, and being non-judgmental. Those are all factors. The big issue here is that if we set up a mindfulness program in a workplace, is everybody going to get something out of it? And the answer is no, they're not. So it's all very well thinking, oh yes, let's have some mindfulness and let's put that in. It's because we haven't got back to human principles, and this video is part of the Human at Work series. It's going back, if you like, to look at the human at work rather than saying, here is a worker who happens to be human, let's deal with them in totally professional terms and not really get to grips with what is human about them and understanding what it is they need in order to move on. And the fact is, mindfulness programs are not going to be the right thing for all of the people all the time. It's just not. So what are those factors that are relevant, and how could we elicit those to decide whether someone should be in or not? Well, if we treat people as humans, it's actually very easy. So the sort of question we might say to a human being outside the context of work, if we want to elicit that, is, by the way, Pauline, is your head mostly busy? Do you do a lot of self-talk? Is it during the working day? How busy is that? Now, professionally, we could translate that and say, what proportion of the time, 0 to 100%, would you say that your head is actively involved processing during the day? And if they come up with 97, it's full-on processing, then you know that probably their head is so busy that they're not really having much time to be present, to be aware, and to think rather than react to feelings, which has been, that's non-judgmental stuff, has to come not just from emotionally based reactions, whether the individual is aware of the names of those emotions or not, but emotional reactions, patterned reactions. It's being able to pause long enough intellectually to calibrate that and then not react with the judgmental, to notice the pattern, to notice the prejudice that may well be there. And not everyone has that, and that's particularly the case with people who have very busy heads. And then you can look at some of the stuff around awareness. So around self-awareness, if you're talking to a human being, you might say, what does your heart feel like right now? Now that could be interpreted in lots of ways, but the human being would give you some information about, it feels pretty steady, it's comfortable, it's beating normally, it's not sort of erratic or anything, so I'm not feeling particularly stressed or anything, I'm not feeling particularly anxious, it's feeling pretty good at the moment. Whereas in the context of work, what would we ask? Well, we might ask some physiology questions, like what's happening in your physiology now? And someone who is completely remote from their physiology is not going to be able to tell you anything very much at all. Whereas someone who's very in touch with their physiology will say, I'm a little bit stiff in the neck, it's I've been a bit stressed recently at work, and spending too much time in front of a screen, and sometimes got a laptop on my knees and bending down like this and it's getting in my neck, and they'll give you some information about an elbow or a knee or a foot that's bent underneath the desk, and they've been getting soreness in the feet. They may be able to tell you something about their breathing. They may be able to tell you something about the quality of the light around them and how that is impacting on their retinas. So someone who's already some of the way towards being able to receive and use mindfulness approaches is much more likely to get something out of it. And if people are at a point when they really don't have that sort of physiological awareness of both of themselves and others in the environment around them, if they're not really present in the sense of being able to intuit information rather than just calculate it through thinking processes, and if they're quick to judge, then these people are probably not going to get a lot out of mindfulness programs. This first bases need to be gone through first. What would we do? Well, I think some things to think about would be to think about state management. Programs for dealing with state, experiencing state would be very useful. Experiential program. I think we should think about a feedback program, so people are learning over perhaps a year, 18 months, 2 years. First, dealing with feedback, using that in a positive way, not a negative, judgmental way, but actually in a positive way. I would think also maybe something like emotional intelligence program, again over a period of 18 months, maybe 2 years or so, of developing emotional intelligence in conjunction with feedback particularly is very, very useful. So to do those sorts of interventions in order to develop the people to the point when they are ready to get a lot more out of mindfulness. That's my take on mindfulness and presencing, and I hope it's been useful. Thank you.